military paychecks could actually starve. And food benefits for, 40 million American families? They're set to be suspended.
Yeah.
This government shutdown isn't just some political drama anymore. It's become a real financial countdown for a lot of people.
It really has.
Welcome back to the Deep Dive. So today's October 28th, 2025, and this shutdown is dragging to its 5th week now. It feels brutal. Like you said, this isn't just about closed parks or museums in D.C. anymore. This is hitting paychecks, hitting food on the table.
Yeah.
It feels like a crisis.
It's definitely reached a critical point, a historic one, maybe. If this deadlock goes through December 1st, we're looking at estimates of around $21 billion.
Billion, with a B.
Billion.
Right.
In missing wages. That's from 4.5 million civilian federal employees. But, the real urgency is like right now.
Okay.
Because for the first time ever, active duty military members across all branches, they might actually miss their paycheck on October 31st.
Wow. That's hard to even process. I heard the administration managed to find funds for the mid-month pay.
They did. About $8 billion was reallocated to cover that mid-October date for the troops.
But that next one, October 31st, it's looming.
It is. So our mission today, it's pretty straightforward, really. We want to cut through all the political noise and figure out who this shutdown is really hurting financially.
Right.
And why these two huge groups, federal employees on one hand and millions getting benefits like food stamps on the other, why they're caught right in the middle of this political fight.
Yeah, and it seems like the sources show this isn't accidental. It's strategic.
Exactly. It's a strategic confrontation. So we need to look closely at the different types of federal workers because, honestly, some are way more protected financially than others. Some aren't protected at all.
And then there's the whole issue with SNA, the Food Assistance Program. Why is that funding being blocked now? It feels like a deliberate move.
It does. And we need to unpack the political stalemate there, how those critical funds are being, intentionally held back, according to some sources.
Okay, so we're going to unpack how political games are impacting real lives, look at the cost of just doing nothing in government, and dig into these arguments about where the money is and why it's not getting to people. Let's jump in.
All right, let's start with the federal workers. The payroll situation. It sounds like a total maze.
It really is.
You've got some people protected, some basically working for IOUs maybe. It sounds like your experience depends entirely on which government office you work in.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. And the map for this maze, it's really defined by one law, the Government Employee Fair Treatment Act, GEFTA, from 2019.
GEFTA.
Okay.
This law is key because it guarantees that certain workers automatically get back pay once the government reopens. That changed everything about shutdowns.
How so? How does it break down for the different employee groups? Let's simplify it a bit.
Okay. So you've basically got two main groups affected by the shutdown pay freeze and then one group that's totally fine.
First group, the largest one affected, are the furloughed employees. These are the workers the government decides are, quote, non-essential, or non-accepted is the official term.
Right. They're told to stay home.
Exactly. Stay home, stop working, no paychecks during the shutdown. But, and this is the GEFTA effect, they are guaranteed automatic back pay for all the time they were off.
Okay, hold on. So automatic back pay for staying home. This is where the criticism comes in, right?
Yeah.
From a taxpayer angle.
Precisely. This is a major point raised by conservative critics based on our sources. They argue, look, these employees get guaranteed pay for time they didn't work. Is that essentially a paid vacation on the taxpayer dime?
And it creates resentment, especially when you compare them to the next group.
Absolutely. It highlights what many see as a big inequity for the second group, the accepted employees. These are your essential workers. Think air traffic controllers, TSA agents, Border Patrol, critical national security folks.
The people who have to keep working.
They have to work, often full tilt, but they also don't get paid during the shutdown.
Wait, so the person landing planes safely works for free, but the person told to stay home gets the same paycheck guaranteed later.
That's exactly right. And kind of adding insult to injury, if an accepted employee, one of these essential workers, had already scheduled vacation time or needed leave during the shutdown, they have to burn their own personal time off, their PTO, for it.
Seriously?
Yeah. So not only are they working without pay, they're also losing their earned leave time. You can see why many of them feel, pretty slighted compared to furloughed colleagues getting mandatory time off with guaranteed back pay.
Okay, that does sound unfair. And the third group, the ones who are fine.
Right. The third group are the exempt employees. I just keep working, keep getting paid like normal, no disruption.
Why them?
Their funding isn't tied to the annual appropriations bills that Congress is fighting over. Maybe it's multi-year funding. or from a different source, certain Department of Defense civilians, for example, they're just insulated from this whole mess.
Okay, so insulated workers, workers paid to stay home eventually, and essential workers forced to work for free. But you mentioned some are totally unprotected.
Ah, yes, the government contractors. This is where the real financial cliff edge is.
How so?
GFTA, that law guaranteeing back pay. It offers absolutely zero protection to contractors. These are often folks in lower wage, hourly jobs, janitors, cafeteria workers, security guards working in federal buildings. They work for private companies, not the government directly.
So if the government building they clean is closed,
They don't work, and they are not guaranteed back pay. Nothing. Any compensation they might get later is totally up to the contracting agency, and if that agency even has the budget or willingness to cover it, many just lose that income permanently.
So Congress protected federal employees with GEFTA, but the private sector support staff, often the lowest paid, they're just left hanging.
Completely. It's a huge gap in the supposed safety net.
Okay, this brings us to the next really alarming piece. Beyond paychecks, food. This is where things seem unprecedented.
They really are.
On November 1st, just days away, SNAP benefits food stamps for about 40 million Americans. They're scheduled to be suspended. Is that right? First time ever.
That's what the reports indicate. The first interruption to the National Food Stamp Program since it began in its modern form in 1964.
Why? What's different this time? Didn't they keep SNAP running in the 2018-19 shutdown?
They did. Back then, the USDA, the Department of Agriculture, used available contingency funds to keep the benefits flowing. They recognized it was essential, a safety net program.
The current administration isn't doing that. They're saying they legally can't.
That's the administration's position, yes. Led by the Trump White House and House Speaker Mike Johnson, they maintain they are not legally able to tap into nearly $6 billion in USDA contingency funds for November's SNAP payments.
Even though the USDA itself previously acknowledged those funds could be used for contingencies, like, a government shutdown.
Correct. That's the core of the dispute. The administration claims their hands are tied legally.
And the politics around this are intense. We need to report this impartially. But who is the administration blaming for potentially cutting off food assistance?
They're very explicitly blaming Senate Democrats. Official statements from the USDA, backed up by White House staff, point the finger directly at them.
What's the specific accusation?
The claim is that Senate Democrats have voted 12 times against funding the program because they're holding out for other policy demands. The USDA accused them of prioritizing these unrelated issues over keeping SNAP funded.
And what are those demands the Democrats are reportedly making? What policies are they trying to link to government funding?
According to the administration's statements and sources, the key demands involve major permanent policy changes, things like making certain Affordable Care Act or ACA, tax credits permanent, and canceling some scheduled cuts to Medicaid funding.
So healthcare policy changes.
Primarily, yes. The White House messaging, highlighted in conservative sources, paints it as Democrats holding government funding and therefore SNAP benefits hostage to achieve these healthcare policy wins first. They've used pretty strong language, like Democrats shamefully playing politics with vulnerable families.
Regardless of the blame game, the impact is huge, right?
Yeah.
What does $8 billion in SNAP look like nationally?
It's massive. It's about $8 billion for November alone. If that money doesn't go out, families immediately face impossible choices: food or rent, food or medicine.
And the states can't just cover it temporarily.
No, that's critical. State governments do not have the authority or the funds to just front that kind of money and hope for federal reimbursement later. When the federal funds stop, the benefits stop instantly.
Okay, let's pull this all together. We have GEFTA guaranteeing back pay for federal workers, making shutdowns maybe less painful for them personally in the long run.
Right, removing some immediate financial pressure, perhaps.
None. And then you have this very deliberate, very political fight over SNAP funds, directly impacting millions who have no safety net. It almost seems like the shutdown structure itself encourages these long stalemates now.
It certainly creates some perverse incentives. From a taxpayer perspective, think about it. GEFTA means you're guaranteed to pay federal workers their full salary eventually, whether they were furloughed, meaning not working, or accepted and working for free during the shutdown.
So taxpayers foot the bill for lost work.
Essentially, yes. You're paying for potentially weeks of lost productivity guaranteed by law. Critics argue this removes a major incentive for Congress, especially those furloughed workers' representatives, to end the shutdown quickly.
And the political pressure points, the leverage, it shifts away from the federal payroll.
Exactly. It shifts to the groups not protected by GEFTA. The military, whose pay is now threatened, the contractors facing immediate hardship, and now, very visibly, the SNAP recipients. These become the bargaining chips.
And we've even seen threats against GEFTA itself.
We have. The current administration has reportedly threatened to try and bypass GEFTA, to deny the back pay, even though it's law.
Which sounds less like a legal move and more like political hardball.
Precisely. Using the guaranteed financial security of federal workers as leverage to force Congress to pass a continuing resolution and reopen the government, likely on the administration's terms regarding those policy disputes like healthcare.
And meanwhile, the people actually responsible for this shutdown, the members of Congress,
They continue to get paid. Their salaries are not affected by the appropriations lapse.
so no personal financial skin in the game for them.
None whatsoever. Unlike the federal workers, the contractors, the military families, the SNAP recipients, Congress feels no direct economic impact from the shutdown they created and are prolonging. The incentive to compromise is purely political, not personal or financial.
Okay, so we've walked through the back pay guarantees, the real sacrifice from essential workers and especially contractors, and how things like military pay and food stamps have become, frankly, political weapons in Washington.
Yeah, it's a complex picture, but the core tension seems pretty clear now. You have one side, largely Senate Democrats, according to the administration's narrative, insisting on big policy changes, permanent ACA credits, stopping Medicaid cuts before they'll agree to fund the government.
While the other side, the administration and House leadership, is demanding a clean funding bill first, separating it from those larger policy fights.
Exactly. And this fundamental disagreement over how and when Congress should fund the government is causing this incredible disruption. And for the first time, it's weaponizing things like food assistance in a way we haven't seen before.
That really clarifies the stakes for you,
Yeah.
the listener.
So maybe here's a final thought for you to consider as you wrap up this deep dive with us. GEFTA, back in 2019, it solved a problem, right? It ended the uncertainty about back pay for many federal workers.
Seemed like a good thing at the time.
But think about this. By making that back pay automatic, did GEFTA maybe, unintentionally, remove the most immediate financial pressure on Congress to resolve shutdowns quickly? Did it make shutdowns, in a way, more politically sustainable for longer periods? And if it did, has that allowed the political leverage points to shift away from the federal payroll and towards these other vulnerable areas?
Yeah.
Military pay, contractor jobs, and now, critically, the SNAP program enabling these much tougher, maybe more damaging fights over unrelated policies like healthcare. It's a tough question. Did solving one shutdown problem accidentally help create a pathway to an even worse one?